All right, well,
Yeah.
with that, we will move forward to our presentation by Kate Kelly of Lewis Creek Association. And Kate, I'll let you introduce yourself and then dive in.
Great. Thank you guys for having me. My name's Kate. I actually grew up in Shelburne, as Gail was alluding to. My parents are here on the line. Hi, Mom and Dad. And I moved away for about 15 years. I have a background in biology, in particular in reptile and amphibian biology. Moved back here to Vermont maybe 8 years ago. Live over in Heinsberg now. But I work with Lewis Creek Association part-time, as well as doing herpetology work the other half of my time. And wanted to chat with you guys tonight a little bit about our sort of water quality and what's going on with water in our lakes and our streams, and sort of how we can work together to try to improve that. And I know some of you guys have heard parts of this presentation before. I do have some information to reiterate, and then some additional resources to share towards the end. So I guess I would encourage you, if you are bored out of your mind and you've heard all this before, please don't hesitate to raise your hand and say, hey, like, we were all here last time you said this, and please move on. I'm going to try to zoom over things fairly quickly towards the beginning, because I know that for some of you anyways, this is pretty basic background information. Okay, so I need to figure out, I think hopefully I can share my screen, if someone can give me that power.
Yeah, if you can't, let me just try to make you co-host.
Okay, so
Let's see if that does it.
great, I think that will do. Okay, and just as fair warning, I have this little video clip in here, and I think when I share, you guys will all disappear. I won't be able to see you anymore. So you might have to speak up if you need me for something. Okay. Okay, great. So let me click through here. All right, so Lake Champlain, as you know, is an important and valued resource to Vermonters. The 2017 Clean Water Report by the state treasurer says that about 300 million is raised in tax revenues and fee revenues from tourism each year. And that number of tourism is really only a portion, or about 1/5 of what we bring in, because of our clean lake and natural resources. A polluted Lake Champlain is costly to all taxpayers, rich and poor, and it may be costly for generations to come. Recently, we've been losing money from tourism and decreased property values, as well as from lake cleanup expenses, by failing to slow down our rate of phosphorus loading to Lake Champlain. The 20-year total clean water compliance costs were projected to be 2.3 billion, or 115 million per year, according to that same 2017 report. So we have to work at every level, from property owners to municipalities to the state, to help restore the health and functioning of our watershed. We're going to need everybody to pitch in, because what we do on all of our properties and in our towns throughout the watershed will determine our rate of success in restoring the health and beauty of Lake Champlain. So we have very phosphorus-rich clay soils here in the Lake Champlain Basin. During rain events, fertilizer, manure, and these tiny clay soil particles that bind to phosphorus in the soil are carried the farthest and the fastest, leading to excessive phosphorus in our streams and lake waters. The smallest amount of bare soils can lead to erosion that transports this soil into Lake Champlain. Phosphorus then provides the bulk of food for algae, and that can result in excess algae growth, including potentially toxic blue-green algae, also known as cyanobacteria, and fish kills. And in particular, you know, one of the issues that our development patterns here in Vermont have caused is an increase in runoff due to sort of urban or suburban development. So as shown in the image on the right, you can see that The majority of water, when it hits the ground in a city, is going to run off, probably go directly into a storm grate, which often feeds directly into a stream. It doesn't get treated before it hits the stream. In a more natural environment on the left, you can see that there's really only about 10% of the water that falls from the sky that actually runs off. Most of it infiltrates into the ground or evaporates up into the air. So here in Vermont, this is sort of based on modeling, but Vermont contributes about 631 metric tons of phosphorus to the lake per year. Most of that comes from agriculture and development. So developed land contributes about 18% of the phosphorus load. Agriculture contributes 41% of the phosphorus load. That's on the left pie chart on your screen. And in order to meet our phosphorus reduction targets to improve lake water quality, we need to reduce phosphorus by about 30%, with the largest and most cost-effective reductions coming from agriculture. So some of the ways that we've dealt with water in the past have caused problems today. On the left side of your screen, you'll see sort of a naturally sinuous or curvy river. And I think you can hopefully see my little laser pointer. This is the La Platte River here in Heinsberg, along Shelburne Falls Road and just south of O'Neill Road. On the right side of the screen, you can see a river that was straightened. It's actually the same river. It's the La Platte, again in Heinsberg. This is 116 running north and south and then curving around in Heinsberg. So the La Platte River here in this stretch was artificially straightened. And that was done mistakenly to try to save farm fields and backyards. Unfortunately, it caused water to flow faster, which led to more flooding downstream, more carrying of sediments, and more damage to property because of the force of floodwaters. So in our La Platte River watershed, about 66 miles of that watershed has been assessed, and 14 miles of those were mapped as straightened. So that's about 21% of the assessed sites. As we saw all too well this year, flooding is much more common now because of climate change, more rainfall, more rain in the winter, and larger, heavier storms. The vast majority of phosphorus reaches the lake during these major stormwater events. With these heavier rainfalls, that water-soluble phosphorus fertilizer and clay soils more readily wash off and erode into surface waters. So in this very large Champlain drainage area, these clay soils, our past management practices, more development and heavier storms are really accelerating the rate of phosphorus and other pollution reaching the lake. Because our river systems are so connected to lake health, solutions to lake pollution must occur throughout these systems, including their upslope watersheds. It really takes an all-in watershed approach. This approach is complemented by Vermont's enhanced and science-based river management practices. So I'm just going to show a brief video that shows 3 river management principles and does a good job of describing sort of the strategy for how best to manage rivers, and then followed by the historic stream alteration that it replaces, and talks about why that replacement is important. Or I hope I'm going to show a video with the spinning wheel.
It's not spinning. Oh, now it is. Slow.
Okay, we might not show you a video. I apologize, internet draw here at my house right in the other room. So, okay, so I'm moving on. I'll give you the quick summary of that, and I'll send you the link later to that YouTube video if you want to check it out. Essentially, it's important to allow the river to reconnect to its floodplain, and to sort of allow that to happen, potentially by even moving buildings out of the flood zones. Those floodplains really work by slowing flows and allowing sediments to drop out, to spread out over the floodplain, and then sediments to drop out. Those floodplain plants can then enrich habitat and use those sediments, use that phosphorus, as opposed to it being carried downstream to the lake. Slowing the flow. So stream water and sediment flows slow down when streams meander naturally, as opposed to being straightened. By increasing those meanders and stream length over the slope of its watershed, flows are less erosive and both habitat and water quality increase naturally. And then removing gravel from the stream bed can cause down cutting, which adds to stream speed and force, and therefore erosion and sediment loading to the lake. So the overall message of the video is that what we do in one place in a watershed may have an unintended effect on the stream. So we have to consider the functioning of the whole watershed or the catchment area to be effective. And that's what we mean by taking a watershed approach to things. Okay, so here in Vermont, we have some new regulations, or fairly new regulations, I guess I'll say, that have been put into place, including the 3-acre permit, which requires properties that have over 3 acres of impervious surface to sort of treat a certain percentage of that water that's flowing off their properties. The municipal roads general permit, and the required agricultural practices, or RAPs. Towns and property owners have to meet these requirements, often at great expense. There are lots of voluntary measures that we can take. LCA and land trusts often work to promote those types of measures, going above and beyond current regulations to take into account climate change. For example, this river corridor easement in the Starksboro Valley allows the stream to meander and access its natural floodplain. Monitoring water quality can help detect hotspots while understanding trends. Lewis Creek Association does water quality monitoring through our program, the South Chittenden River Watch, using volunteers. And that informs our project locations and designs, as well as the work of state agencies. Our current data confirm that all of the La Platte region streams have excessive phosphorus concentrations. Towns and others can better utilize this information, for example, by including information about high phosphorus in your town plan to allow the DRB or Planning Commission authority to make conditions for water quality, such as respecting a wider buffer on a stream. I'll show you just a couple examples of some of our data that is available online if you want to explore a little bit more. We do have what we call a scorecard map for the La Platte River and direct drainage watersheds. This is a summary of 10 years of water quality data results, and it also includes information on culverts and stream channel stability. So on this map, each of the icons that you see, sort of square icons with 4 small squares, is one of our water quality sampling locations. So like this one here and this one here. And within each of those larger squares, each small square represents a different parameter for water quality. Phosphorus is shown in the upper left corner of each of those squares. And it also shows data for solids, chloride, and E. coli or bacteria. The colors there reflect a water quality score of poor in red, moderate in yellow, or good in green. So you'll probably note that every station in this area has poor or high levels of phosphorus there in the upper left corner. This map, like I mentioned, also shows data for each town and includes data on the stream channel stability, culverts, like how well they match the channel and how they impact the movement of fish and other animals in the stream. Now that map was created some years ago, so some of our more recent water quality data is available as well on our website, and some of that is summarized here. This was sort of our last 2 years, 2 most recent years of water quality sampling in Shelburne. The green dots you're looking at are phosphorus levels, and you can see in particular that these 2 points on the left side of your screen, here and here, are both on McCabe's Brook in Shelburne, and they're both quite high. We also had some fairly high values here on Mud Hollow and outside Shelburne in Heinsberg. Now, Vermont DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, uses water quality data that we collect along with data on fish and macroinvertebrates to help determine which water bodies are impaired or stressed. You can see on this map, the orange line here in Shelburne is part of McCabe's Brook, which is impaired by nutrients for aquatic life support, meaning that it no longer supports fish and invertebrates, bugs very well. And so you're looking here at fish assessment results for the La Platte River watershed. So each of the dots is a station where they have sampled fish. The light green here is a good result. Dark green is excellent. Yellow is fair results. So you can see McCabe's is between fair and good. And then when we go to the bugs or macroinvertebrate results, you can see here a bunch of red circles, which is poor macroinvertebrate sort of data for McCabe's Brook and Shelburne. And that's one of the reasons why this stretch of McCabe's is deemed impaired. So all these data combined help inform the work that we do in your town. We recently completed a project that created a stormwater master plan for McCabe's Brook. So in that plan, we completed 3 concept designs to sort of progress some of those projects toward, getting to final design and then construction. We're also now working on a concept design that was identified in that plan, which is allowing the brook to access its floodplain, like we talked about, and to do some tree plantings near the Vermont Day School and Teddy Bear Company. So we're looking forward to progressing that a little further down the line. Okay, so a quick summary here of our Ahead of the Storm program, and then I might have to zoom ahead so I don't take too much of your time. Our Ahead of the Storm program is a program that really showcases 3 principles. The ideas for stormwater management being to slow water down, spread it out, and sink it into the ground. We have demonstration sites throughout the watershed, and those demonstrate a variety of land management practices that can help improve water quality in our streams and our lake. So just a few examples of those. This site, which is East Thompson's Point Road in Charlotte, is a roadside swale that was designed with these rock check dams to help slow water down before it reaches Thorpe Brook, which is up at the top of the screen. Here at the Heinsberg Town Garage, buildings and a berm, which were here next to Beecher Brook, were removed to make space for the stream to really spread out onto what was its natural floodplain, but had been filled in over time. In addition, rocks and logs were added here into the stream to help raise the bed level of the stream, allowing it to spread out onto its floodplain and drop that sediment out before it gets washed down into the La Platte River and onto Lake Champlain. And then this one you guys probably all recognize, Shelburne Community School. This area was originally a big grassy knoll in front of the school bus circle. And there were storm grates scattered around where water essentially went directly from that parking lot into the storm grates and out into McCabe's Brook. We were able to design and then construct this rain garden. It was planted with the help of students. That allows water now to flow into that area, sink into the ground, get cleaned up by those plants before being sent on to the brook and the lake. Okay, so I'm gonna just real quickly go through a couple of slides on sort of what towns can do, a couple of ideas, and then I will get on to the new manual that we can talk about a little more and you can be aware of anyways. So enhancing our language for protection of river corridors, buffers, floodplains, wetlands, all those things in our town plans and land use regulations is all going to be important. Designing for climate change to go above and beyond our existing state regulations can be really helpful. Without these types of, enhanced land management practices, our new weather patterns will damage the lake sooner. We need to go above and beyond the municipal roads general permit. designing our roadside swales to really carry a lot of water. This particular swale was designed to carry water from a 100-year storm. And then applying those municipal roads general permit design principles to our driveways and private roads can be really critical too. As you can see here, Shelburne has a lot of private roads, and that municipal roads general permit really only applies to our public roads. So examples of this can include, designing roads to have a good crown on them, grass lining ditches, or including broad-based dips or water bars, installing check dams and rock lining on those steeper road ditches to slow the flow. Learning about documented water quality conditions of Shelburne, Charlotte, and Heinsberg streams can be important. Our annual reports and that scorecard map that I mentioned are all available on our website in the library section. Starting a conservation fund to protect natural areas of high public value, such as the Charlotte Conservation Fund, can be important as well. And addressing our existing development patterns in those flood-prone areas, we can really help mitigate impacts from our historic stream alterations that now increase flows, allowing that excessive phosphorus loading to the lake. And then on our own properties, we have a part to play as well to help prevent soil and stormwater from leaving our property. So that can be applying these ahead of the storm principles of the 3 S's, like slowing, spreading, and sinking the water in, to your own backyard, your driveway, your private road. A few examples: we want to keep soil on our own properties. So, redirect our downspouts so water sheets over the lawn instead of making a gully using a rain barrel. Again, fixing our driveways and our private roads to help improve water flow off them without causing erosion. Allowing water to soak into the soil. This is a rain garden at the Charlotte Library. It allows water from the roof to be collected and soak in instead of running across pavement into the swale. Minimizing our amount of lawn, cutting grass no shorter than 3 inches, all slows the flow of water because those taller grass and plants have deeper root systems and can catch more water. And of course, maintaining a wooded buffer along our waterways and our properties helps minimize the pollutants and sediments that reach our waterways. So if anyone has questions, we sometimes get questions at LCA about can you come out and look at my property, or can you tell me I have a problem, I have a lot of water running, I'm interested in learning what I can do or what resources are available. We have a new resource available as of today, which is very exciting. Just got our printed ahead of the storm guidance manual. I'll just show you a selection of pages from the manual so you kind of understand what's in it, and then tell you how to get to it. So the manual, as I said, it is sort of meant for landowners or municipalities or others to assess a piece of property or assess a site, and then try to come up with some potential solutions and sort of direct you to the variety of resources that might help you take those next steps. So the manual includes the basics of stormwater management that we just mentioned, those 3 S's, guide you through how to assess your site, gives examples of problems and solutions. It also has a series of activities that will help you determine that best practice for your area, and includes a list of resources to take those next steps. So this is one of the site assessment pages, sort of shows an example of how you could, sort of take your site and do a drawing or a map of what's going on there and how the water flows across it. This is the page that shows possible solutions. So essentially, if I have a problem with my roof, runoff causing erosion off my gutters, what are some steps I could take? And it guides you through what you might do in those different locations. As I mentioned, there's a couple of activities. There's actually 4 activities in here that you're directed to at various steps to help calculate, how much water is reaching an area, or in this case, is my soil good for infiltration for doing something like a rain garden? or is this too wet? And really it's just, I probably need to plant some water loving plants here because it's probably a historic wetland. And as I mentioned, directs you to a variety of resources. There are many excellent resources out there, Rain Garden Manual, Better Roads Manual, Green Stormwater Infrastructure tools. So we didn't want to recreate the wheel here, but we wanted to help folks sort of get that initial step in of what do I do? How do I access? Like, what are the materials that are out there? The manual is quite literally hot off the press. We just picked it up today from the printer, but we will have hard copies available in local libraries soon. So you should be able to check those out. And then on our website, using this link or QR code, you can download a copy as well and look at it on your screen. So, thanks to your town, provides funding support each year to LCA to help support our water quality sampling. And we do have a devoted group of volunteers who collect those samples. So if any of you are interested, consider joining us. It's a fun group of folks. And really, investing now in these preventive measures and fixing our past mistakes will cost us less in the end. So with that, please reach out to me with any questions or to get involved. I know I'm running a little short on time, but I'm happy to take questions if you guys have time tonight. And, in closing, I guess what we do on all of our properties and in our towns will determine our success in restoring the health and beauty of Lake Champlain and our community health. So I've stopped sharing. If anybody has questions, I can take them.
Thank you, Kate. That was great.
Yeah, no
I had a
questions from my end right away, but that was super helpful. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you all for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So I guess we don't
Thanks, Kate.
have too many members from the public here, but how would you envision, if somebody came to us asking about stormwater, can we, we'll have your link in the manual, but are you guys open to having people directed to you to ask, more pointed questions about using the tool and how they could?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, it is a challenge for us in my limited part-time work to make personal visits to everybody who inquires. But I try my best to respond to all emails, phone calls, etc. So happy to take questions and try to help folks out wherever I can.
I'm a little bit concerned, having heard what's going on in the State House about expanding housing in the areas that already are in the sewer district. And how do we make sure that that changes that are happening in the future that are kind of overriding our town regulations from the state are not going to further impede the watersheds?
I could,
Oh,
yeah, I'm
Go ahead,
Andrea
Andrea.
Morganti, and I am on the board, president of the Lewis Creek Association. And I would say that the legislature is meeting now. I think what you're referring to is the changes that they are considering to Act 250 and the emphasis on kind of creating and encouraging development where there are municipal services. And I testified today to the House Committee on Environment and Energy. And my message to them was that we have learned a lot from the way that our historic pattern of development that we all seem to be touting and supporting of compact villages and our rural working landscapes and, important ecological services. What we don't want to do is recreate those 19th and 20th century um, land uses in our villages. And recognize that where we do have rivers and streams flowing through towns and villages, that instead of ignoring them and saying, well, this is where the housing has to go, let's really lean in and see those as our green infrastructure, and that we don't just write off all of those areas for the ecological functionings that are happening in our villages, or that we have the opportunity to restore. So where there's agricultural land close to the village, and you're thinking about making it a growth center, well, maybe it's former wetlands that was converted to ag land. So I guess what you're asking, what can you do? You can very much speak to your senators from Chittenden County, from our district, and to your representatives, and saying that we should not ignore all of the opportunities that there are to encourage the use of the ecological services of our rivers and streams and wetlands within these, what they're calling tier 1 areas, our villages and downtowns. So speak up, say that we can have these villages, but maybe within our villages, we have wildlife corridors, we have functioning floodplains, and we keep the housing out of harm's way. No reason to build housing where they're ultimately going to be flooded, because of, we've learned that this summer. So sorry to go on, but tell, I think Philip Baruth, Keisha, and I forget who Ginny Lyons is our other senator from Chittenden County for our districts of Shelburne, Charlotte, and Heinsberg. And it's most important that we not discount the important ecological services that can also continue to happen in our villages, as well as your representative. Sorry.
Thank you,
But
Sandra.
it's a work in progress now, and our voices need to be heard.
All right, any other questions before we move on to Dan's presentation? Which I think fits nicely coming off from the